welcome to Lilac Talks Dubs, where every episode I either tackle a recent dub announcement or I take on a previously reviewed series and talk about its recently added dub. Today I'm actually going to be backtracking to the huge broadcast dub announcement that Funimation made a couple months ago and tackle 3 more series that are part of Phase 2 of the dub initiative this season. Today we're going to be playing with, okay, let's see, bears, dragons, and owls. That's right, guys. We're going to be talking about the dub announcements for Yurikuma Arashi, Yona of the Dawn, and Maria the Virgin Witch. As always, how this is going to work is I'm going to give you my predictions for each of the cast members that I thought of, who was actually cast in those shows, slash my opinions on them. And since this is a wonderful little broadcast dub kind of thing, I did get to see some of the first episodes of these new dubs, so I will be giving you my first impressions of them. So I think, yeah, let's get started with it. So the first series I'm going to be talking about is Yurikuma. This one's definitely an interesting one for a couple of different reasons, mainly because the director of Yurikuma in Japan is Ikuhara, who previously has directed Revolution to Go Utena, as well as Penguin Drum and some of the original Sailor Moon. Now, what makes this interesting is because the dubs that seem to come out of it, Revolution to Go Utena isn't exactly a great dub from what I can tell. That one is more though of a product of the late 90s, early 2000s dubs though, so I can't fault it too much, but I need to finish the show anyway. As for Penguin Drum, I didn't even bother watching Penguin Drum when I was reviewing it a couple years ago because I was told to avoid that dub like the plague, and people have told me several times that that dub is terrible. And that is a Sentai Filmworks dub done by Stephen Foster, if I remember correctly, so there's your issue there. So when the news came out that Yurikuma was picked up by Funimation for simulcasting and then for dubbing, people are definitely excited about it because at least we know we're gonna get a decent freaking dub from Funimation, but whether or not it's gonna be a really good one was left up for debate. Starting off with the director and scriptwriter. With these two, at least with the directing side of it, I felt that Yurikuma wasn't going to be as high a profile series, that you're going to get a very, very well-known director like Mike McFarlane coming in on this one. I felt like it wasn't that high of a profile show in order to warrant that. And the scriptwriter, I didn't even bother trying to figure something out with that. So the ADR director is Christopher Bevins and the scriptwriter is Jamie Markey. Christopher Bevins has been around for a while. He's done a variety of things, both vocal work as well as ADR and scripting. Some of his directing credits could include Back Mongolian Chop Squad, Devil's a Part-Timer, Hitalia the Beautiful World, there's also Carnival, there's also Last Exile Famous for Wing, there's Michiko on Hachan, Princess Jellyfish. He did a variety of work, but he also did some that I'm not exactly thrilled about that he did. Those being Cat Planet Cuties, the Heaven's Lost Property franchise, and Witchblade. Those are kind of iffy to me, but I haven't seen those, so I don't exactly have 100% like, oh my god, they're terrible, die, that kind of mentality. But I felt like this would be a pretty good show for Bevins to cover, based on like, because some of the shows that I've seen him direct, at least, they are pretty good. As for Jamie, she's done quite a few scriptwriting credits actually. She's done script credits for Blood Sea as well as the film, script for Devil's a Part-Time, as well as Hitalia. So that kind of explains the partnership for Bevins and Markey right there, which is pretty good. Kami-sama Kiss, the first season, and she is also working on the second season as well. Pantheon Stocking with Garter Belts. Some episodes of Sergeant Frog that are rather sporadic. As well as some episodes of Space Dandy and Spice and Wolf. So she has a good amount of credits in there as well for scriptwriting. And so I feel that this partnership, especially since the two of them have worked together on a few projects before, I feel like this partnership is going to be fine. I'm going backwards in the cast, like I normally do nowadays. I'm going to start with the only 3 male characters that we have in the show. So I'm going to start with Life Sexy, Life Beauty, and Life Cool. I only actually had 4 predictions for the entire cast. 3 of them were these 3 characters, actually. The last one was for Kareha, which we'll get to. Now, for Life Sexy, I originally predicted Ian Sinclair. Life Cool, I predicted Josh Greeley, and Life Beauty, I originally predicted Greg Ayres on this. Ian for Life Sexy, it's one of those ones, and I keep saying this whenever I predict him as something, it's one of those ones where I want to see him try something different. I want to see him go in that direction. I see him as a huge voice acting chameleon. I've said this a few times already. And, I mean, Otohiko, Dandy, Brooke, those are several ones that he does different voices for those, pretty much. I definitely wanted to see him take this on. I mean, it's not as flamboyant as Kami-sama Kisses Otohiko, but it's also not a very manly character. It's more of a sexy, sensual kind of character to an extent. I mean, he's life sexy after all. Greeley and Life Cool, I felt would be a fun, more intellectual kind of character to play, because Life Cool is kind of more the intellect of the trio, even though he gets shot down on several occasions. And I wanted Greeley to play that one and see what we can come up with there. Because he has done the intellectual characters before. I mean, Armin from Attack on Titan is the big one here. And then as for Life Beauty and Greg Ayres, I felt that Greg, just his vocal tone and his range would just match with the character rather well. But I was wrong with all three of these, because the people who are actually playing them, Life Sexy is voiced by J. Michael Tatum, Life Cool is voiced by Christopher Bevins, and Life Beauty is voiced by Josh Greeley. I'm pretty sure that now every time I predict Ian Sinclair or something, I have to predict Tatum as a second choice. Because this is like the third time this has happened. It happened with Rei from Free and then Tsukiyama from Tokyo Ghoul. This is the third time it's happened to me. So I may have to start putting Tatum as like a second choice if I feel like it's a Tatum character that I really want Sinclair to play. With Tatum, I know it's probably going to work here. This is a kind of show, this Yurikuma is definitely a kind of show that I can see him working on, that's for sure. Like, as Life Sexy, I feel like it's going to be fun for him. And some of the mannerisms and stuff that Sexy says is definitely going to be interesting. I mean, like, Shabadadu, for God's sake. That one's going to be fun. Life Cool, because I completely had forgotten what Bevins has done. So there are some voice actors that I don't remember things from that I haven't discussed previously in Dub Talk videos, so I had to pull some stuff up. For Bevins, he has done Japan from Hitalia, Yogi from Carnival, Fastener from Panty and Stocking Garter Belt, so basically the evil equivalent to Garter Belt, if I remember correctly. That's an interesting one, by the way. Mercutio from Romeo x Juliet. He's done a lot, but definitely Bevins is capable of pulling off the intellectual characters, I believe. So I don't think this one's gonna be a problem for him. And as for Josh, this is actually, oddly enough, similar to the Ian Sinclair, J. Michael Tatum situation. This is the second time where it's like, if I predict one person, it's actually the other. Because with here with Yurikuma, I predicted Greg Ayres and it's Josh Greeley, but with Free, I predicted Josh Greeley and it was Greg Ayres. So it kind of makes sense and lines up rather well here. And I feel like Greeley's gonna be perfectly fine here with Life Beauty. So I don't see any issues with it coming in. I'm gonna put the next two together that are on this list. Yurika, who is the principal of the school that Kureha attends, and Sumika, who is a love interest, kind of, for Kureha, who unfortunately dies at the end of the first episode. Not much of a spoiler there, but she does come visiting in throughout the series through different flashbacks and brings different story elements and stuff into the show. So those two are rather important here. I didn't have any predictions for these two. For Yurika, it's Colleen Clunkenbeard, whom you probably know by now, but I don't think we previously discussed her here. Colleen, two really well-known roles for her are Luffy from One Piece and Urza from Fairy Tail, but she's also done a variety of other things. She's currently also with the broadcast steps for Rolling Girls, both as a director and as a character. And I want to say she's doing World Break, but I am probably wrong. Colleen's rather well known, she's been around for a while. And then for Sumika, this person, her name is Elaine Wagner. She's a brand new voice actress because this is the first role she's ever gotten, according to Anime News Network and a bunch of other sources. She is brand new. So this is actually interesting. This one, I mean, Yurika I'm okay with Colleen. I have no issue. Elaine Wagner as Sumika, that is the interesting one for me here. Since this is her first role ever, It's gonna be interesting to see how it goes, because, I mean, learning curve exists, but luckily this is a broadcast dub, so this isn't even a final product. So to see someone brand new coming in here, like very, very brand new, it's interesting, because at least with like Assassination Classroom, like we previously talked about, there are some new voice actors, but they at least had 2 or 3 other voice acting roles before taking something on like this. Elaine, brand new, has never done any voice acting before, so it's definitely gonna be interesting to see that. Next is going to be Lulu. I'm leaving the last 3 separate. Lulu is definitely more of a hyperactive, peppy, hyper kind of girl. Rather spastic at times. And Lulu is voiced in this dub by Jamie Marchi, which this is the point where I start getting really kind of confused and like, what? It's not that I don't like Jamie, but my problem is I'm more used to roles that Jamie's done, similar to Soul Eater, where she's one of the Thompson sisters. Let's see, Panty from Panty Stocking and Garter Belt. Even the Mysterious Woman from Death Parade. Those are the kinds of roles that I'm more used to from Jamie. So to see her as Lulu is going to be definitely very, very different for me to see. I know that it's not going to be those kind of roles that I gave you examples of. It's not going to be that. She has to bring the vocal tone up a bit, but she also has to make the character younger, because this girl is like high school age. So she has to try and make the character younger, as well as bring the range in her vocals up a little bit higher in a different octave. So it'll be interesting to see that happen, and see what comes out of that. But it's for her, as well as one other character that I'm going to get to in like 2 seconds, it's going to be a big adjustment period for me to deal with here, which I guess leads me into Ginkgo, because Ginkgo is the other one that I was a little bit iffy, that I'm very iffy about, and it's probably going to be another adjustment period, because Ginkgo is voiced by Monica Rial. Now, Monica, I'm very, very, very used to at this point a lot of moe type characters, but I know she's capable of playing very, very different ones. Haruka from Razvan is a big one. Michiko from Michiko and Hachan. I know she's capable of pulling off that kind of stuff, but similar to Jamie, she has to play a younger role, which normally she's capable of doing, which turns into the moe kind of Monica performances. However, Ginkgo is not a moe character. That's the tricky part we're going to be having with here. I feel like it's going to be more of an adjustment period as well, especially with some of the stuff that Ginkgo goes through throughout the series, because as of recording this, I am at least caught up to episode 10, I believe. But it's definitely going to be very, very different compared to anything I've seen her done. For her and Jamie as these 2 characters is going to take some adjustment period time for me. The last character obviously that was announced was Kureha Tsubaki, our main character. I did have a prediction for this one, and I originally thought it was going to be Bryn April, because Bryn has this soft spoken voice that we've seen many times at this point with Attack on Titan, Red Data Girl. What else is she doing? She's doing Defrag, which, by the way, a trailer finally came up for Defrag in its English dub, and I'm excited for her to play Roka. It works really nicely, by the way. So seeing her as Kureha would have been something interesting for me. However, that is not the case. Instead, we have Alexis Tipton coming in as Kureha. And this is one I'm perfectly fine with. Tipton, we haven't exactly talked about her that much in terms of dub talk videos. Tipton is well known for being these rather peppy girls, but occasionally she can play darker stuff too. Guilty Crown is probably a good example of this, even though the show is not exactly that great. But she's also done Baka and Test. She is a small character from Kami-sama Kiss, which she's currently reprising that role a little bit in the 2nd season. But I think with Tipton here as Kureha, I think it's going to be perfectly fine. There's not going to be any issues with it. And I think it's definitely going to be a good fit for her and her, for Tipton and her vocal range. And I'm very excited to see how that goes. As far as impressions go, because I did watch the first episode of the broadcast dub, I did write a few notes down, and I'm just gonna go bit by bit with those notes and kind of explain stuff. So first thing I wrote down is that I loved Elaine Wagner's first outing, despite the learning curve. I think her vocal performance of Sumika for that first episode was really good. I enjoyed it a lot, and it was a surprise to see that despite that learning curve, she manages to pull out something as great as this. At this point, I feel like it's only going to grow from here, and it'll be fun to see where that goes. The second note I wrote down was that Tipton and Clunkenbeard, I believe right now, are really good fits for Kureha and Yurika. They seem really natural. With Tipton, she got to play around a little bit more because you follow her more than you do Yurika. It's definitely a good fit. And for Colleen, I know it's going to be good for her as Yurika, and I'm excited to see where she takes Yurika's character and progresses with it, because Yurika, for lack of a better word, can be a little bit nutty, a little crazy sometimes, so it'll be fun to see how that goes. The next is actually not necessarily a note on like critiquing the dub, more about another voice actress that I found out was a part of this dub, because she was not a part of the initial announcement, but that's more because the character you only see very, very little of throughout the series. I think you see her in the first few episodes, and I know she did come up again later on. That's Mitsuko, and I figured out that it was Caitlin Glass voicing that character, and I feel like that one is a solid fit for her, and it's going to be, for Caitlin, it's going to be a lot of fun to see her play with that role a little bit more, considering some of the secrets that Mitsuko has. I wrote down, my next note was that the boys of the show were wonderful. So Tatum, Bevins, and Greeley, I wrote down they were wonderful. And I had actually to pause, a couple times during the Yuri trial, the first Yuri trial, because I could not stop laughing. Because they did keep some of the sound effects, like speaking sound effects, that Japanese did, that they did do that in the English. So you hear the growl growl, you hear the sniff sniff, and in the case of the boys, you hear Beauty say sparkle sparkle. And for Tam specifically in Life Sexy, they kept the shabba da doo. So the sparkle sparkle and the shabba da doo, I had to pause because I was laughing so much at that. And with Bevins, I thought it was a fun fit too, and the three of them played off of each other really well. Which at the same time, speaking of those sound effect noises, the growl growl and the sniff sniff, I'll admit it was a little bit weird. I'm glad that they kept that from between the Japanese and the English. It was just a little weird to me to actually hear it in a dub, because I think this is one of the first times I've really heard something like this, unless there's a show where the character is an animal character that does not take human form at any point in time. So I will say that's a little weird to me. I think, as I mentioned before, for Rial and Marhi, who are Ginkgo and Lulu, I was very iffy on them. The first episode didn't help that at all. I'm still very, very iffy. I can see it working. It's just going to take a bit more adjustment period time for me, but I believe out of the entire first episode of that dub, I think those two are the weakest out of the two. Mostly probably because of the reasons I stated before. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to see how that goes and see what direction that goes from here on out. I think it can be done. It's just going to take some time to make that fit and adjust it. Another thing I found really interesting was that some parts of the show aren't dubbed, while others are. A prime example of this, they kept the Japanese version of Bear Shock. They kept Kuma Shock. They kept that. But with Yurikuma, there's a small thing, if you watch the show, right before the opening theme, where Ginkgo and Lulu, I realized, they are the ones who yell the Yurikuma Arashi a little bit. And they did get Monica and Jamie to do that, which was really weird to me, seeing that. And then, like, you have the Kuma Shock that it was kept there, but I think for the Kuma Shock they kept it mostly for the sake of the vocals and how it really fit, and it was really a standout definitive moment compared to the Yurikuma bit, but it was still really weird to me. Overall, I think it's heading in a great direction. There are really good performances to me, and then there are the weaker ones, but I feel like it's doing pretty good so far. It's gonna take some adjusting for some things here and there, but I think we're on the right track here, and I'm very excited to see where Yurikuma goes, as well as finishing Yurikuma, the simulcast of it in the next couple weeks, so we'll see what happens there. The next show I'm gonna be talking about is Yona of the Dawn. That one is actually really interesting, because as previously mentioned before in the last dub talk video, they're only dubbing the second half of Yona of the Dawn. I believe the dub started at episode 14 this week, and this past week anyway, and it's not exactly the best place to start it. because where they started is smack dab in the little arc of where they meet Shinha, the blue dragon, so it's really weird. And they're calling that, from that point on to like the end of the 24 episode run, that part season 2, which is completely inaccurate because the 24 episodes, that is season 1 in and of itself. It's definitely weird and different to see something like that. And it doesn't make much sense to dub the second half of Yona. I mean, I get it, it's one of the more popular properties. I'm very excited to see a dub happen, but I feel like it would have been a lot better to see Yona dubbed from the beginning. Because I mean, like, that show is one of the only properties that they had gotten from the fall season that crossed over into winter. I mean, the other one that could have possibly had this happen to was Garo the animation. But I feel with Yona, starting at that episode 14 is the wrong place to start the show in terms of dubbing it, because you're just smack dab in the middle of it. And for some people who really just want to watch just the dubs, it's going to be difficult for them to be starting smack dab in the middle and not know what's going on. So they might have to backtrack to that first, that beginning, or even wait until a final product comes out. So it's definitely difficult to really gauge that. This one is another small announcement. There was only 5 or 6 characters that were announced, as well as director, assistant director, and scriptwriter. So I'm going to start with the scriptwriter actually on this one. Because there is an assistant ADR director, I'm going to leave them together with the director. Scriptwriter on this one is Monica Rial. Rial is previously discussed. We've talked about her before because she is one of the scriptwriters for Tokyo Ghoul. This is not going to be an issue, I believe. I think Monica's going to be doing perfectly fine with this. She's also done various other scripts for other shows before. So I believe that Monica's going to do really well with Yona and its script. So yeah, no issues with Monica on this. And then for ADR director and assistant ADR director, this is a fun one here. ADR director is Colleen Clunkenbeard, and assistant ADR director is Clifford Chapin. Now, Colleen and Clifford, this is actually the second time we're seeing the two of them together in directing positions for the second broadcast dub, for another broadcast dub here, because both of them were actually director and assistant for Rolling Girls. So it's interesting to see this team up again coming here. But at the same time, it's also great to see that because the two of them are working together. And for Chapin, he gets at least to have the chance to stick with one director and work on multiple shows and get as much experience as he can, and creating a really good partnership with Colleen. And I would think the fact that Chapin is assisting with both these shows shows a lot about him and how well Colleen trusts him with this work. And what's also going to help with both of them working on this, while one could be directing Rolling Girls, the other could be in the middle of directing Yona the Dawn. So this can work really well back and forth, and knowing what their set goal for the dub is, they can go back and forth and do this really well. So going backwards in cast, these are basically going to be individual at this point. Suwon. Suwon is a very interesting one. He is, I believe, Yona's cousin, who kills her father in the beginning of the show. Not much of a spoiler, don't yell at me for it. And then becomes the king of the land, essentially. So, at least with this one I had full predictions. Suwon, I initially thought it was going to be Josh Greeley. I felt that Josh Greeley is capable of playing both sides of Suwon's character rather well. So he can do both the rather happy, slightly oblivious kind of Suwon, but also the very intellectual and slightly darker one that we see rather often with the show. But we don't have that. Instead, Suwon is actually played by Micah Solasad. Now, Micah Solasad, he's also rather capable of playing both sides. It's just going to be very different than what I imagined in terms of vocal tone and quality. Because if you put Solasad and Greeley like next to each other and you hear them talk, very, very different between the two. But I am sure that Solasad can pull off Suwon rather well, because he's also capable of playing both sides. I mean, if you want an example of the more happy, energetic kind of oblivious slightly character, I would say Mizuki from Kami-sama Kiss is a good example here. And then the darker one, though the show isn't exactly fantastic, I would definitely say Rei Ogami from Codebreaker and maybe Gaisi Sugami from Guilty Crown. Those would probably be really good examples of the darker side. And there's also Soul from Soul Eater who plays both sides pretty well as well in that one show. So I feel like Soul Asad is more than capable of doing this here. Next, oh lordy, pardon me, is Shinha, which we talked about for like 2 seconds. Shinha is the blue dragon, and who we meet at the beginning of this broadcast step. And Shinha is rather soft-spoken and quiet and very, very adorable. Initially, ironically enough, I actually originally predicted Micah Soul Asad to be Shinha because I thought it would be something very, very different and much more adorable for him to play with. I mean, because Mitsuki from Kami-sama Kiss is a good one for him, but I wanted to hear a very, much more quiet Micah Soul Asad, because that is what Shinha is. He's a very, very quiet person. He speaks sometimes, but even then his voice is really like rather timid and rather quiet. So that's what I want to see Soul Asad play with. But obviously since Soul Asad is Suwon, that means my prediction is wrong. Instead, for Shinha, it's Eric Vale. And I did not expect this one. I actually expected him for something else. And so seeing him here as Shinha, I'm very excited because Shinha is actually my favorite character of Yona the Dawn. So to see him play that is very, very interesting to me. I mean, I do know at the very least that Vale is capable of being a lot more soft-spoken and quiet, even though you would not realize that, because he did play Yuki Soma from Fruits Basket, and that's similar, at least in vocal quality, to Shinha to an extent. I think it'll be fine for Vale to be Shinha here, and I'm very excited to see where it goes, because I'll get to my impressions in a few minutes. Next on the list is Yoon. Yoon is the beautiful Bishonen boy genius. I initially had 2 predictions, 1 male voice actor, 1 female. I picked one of each because Yoon, in the Japanese, he is voiced by a female seiyuu. And there is a point in the show where that female voice comes out because Yoon does dress up as a girl as a part of a plan when we reach the Jeha arc, when we first meet him. So that's the reason why I picked one of each. Initially, I picked Aaron Dismuke and Brina Palencia for these. These 2 are my 2 picks. Brina, obviously, because she's capable of playing the little boy role we've seen over and over again. Dismuke, on the other hand, I just felt like his vocal quality could fit rather well with the character. Because if you may not know, Aaron Dismuke is, originally voiced Alphonse Elric in the 2003 Fullmetal Alchemist. But he's also done much more since then, because we have, who do we have? He was in Carnival, he was also in, I know he was also in Demo Wonderland. I felt that either Aaron or Brina would probably be good fits, but I was wrong. Wrong. But I am very excited for this one because Clifford Chapman is taking on Yoon. And Chapman, I'm slowly growing to really, really like his work a lot more. I mean, after being introduced to him as Connie in Attack on Titan, and slowly but surely I'm learning more about him and his work, because he's still fairly new. He doesn't have a lot of credits to his name. Since then, I mean, he's currently voicing Hide from Tokyo Ghoul, and so far that one has been going rather well. He's also doing Moraha from World Break, which I saw the first episode of, and I think his performance was probably one of the best, along with Jade Saxton's performance in there. So he's definitely doing a lot more. He's slowly working his way there. The only thing I'm very interested to see what happens and how he's going to handle it is that cross-dressing moment that Yoon has in the show. Which, when the announcement came up, I did tweet him about it, and I told him I hope that he was ready, Mr. Beautiful Bishonen Boy, and with a picture of Yona and Yoon, with Yoon cross-dressing as a girl. And he responded to that saying that he's actually been working on that voice and trying to figure that out. So it makes me very excited to see what direction that's going to go and how he's going to handle all that. Chapman's is such a sweetheart, by the way. I'm pretty sure he's one of the few voice actors who responds to my tweets. Monica's another one as of recent, but still. My point is, I'm excited to see Chapman here. The next one we have from the announcement is Gija. He is the white dragon. My initial prediction for Gija was actually Jerry Jewell. I felt that Jerry Jewell could pull something like this off rather well. And I thought it would be something fun for him to do, something to play with. And I had honestly yet to see him come up in the broadcast dub this season. So I felt that this would be something that he could play with and have fun with. But it's not Jerry Jewell. He's actually in the last show we're talking about today. Instead, surprised by this, it's Ian Sinclair who's taking on Gija. First of all, I've been wondering where the hell this person has been throughout the broadcast dub season, because you can't really count Otohiko from Kami-sama Kiss all that much. Because I predicted him all over the place in some of the new shows, but this is the first new one that I've seen him taking part in. So I'm excited to see where this is going to go. Gija is definitely more comedic. He has his serious moments, serious and badass moments, but he's very comedic. And I'm very excited to see how Ian Sinclair is going to take this one and see where he's going to go with it. Hawk is the next one. I'm just going to say this right now. My original prediction was Ian Sinclair. Obviously, he's Gija. That's not happening. Hawk was the most difficult one that I had to predict because Hawk is a manly character, but I didn't want to go the predictable, stereotypical route. I felt that Sinclair could work with it and create a different kind of character than what we have seen in the Japanese version. But obviously, being predictable is what's gonna work here, because instead of Sinclair, because obviously he's Gija, it's Christopher Sabat. And another one I've been wondering where the hell he's been hiding this broadcast dub season, because the only thing he's been announced for so far is Jason from Tokyo Ghoul, but we don't really see Jason in season 2. So it's not much point. So he hasn't really done anything this season. And so we have him here as Hawk. Very predictable. I don't know how to feel about it. It's probably gonna work. I'm probably not gonna have any issues with it later. It just seemed too easy to pick him as that, and I'm kind of like, I mean, I think it's gonna work. I don't see any huge problems with it. It's just that Hawk, my main problem is that, similar to Ginko and Lulu from Yurikuma, is that Hawk is a lot younger than what Sabat actually is. And in order for this to really work, I'm kind of hoping that he kind of tries to make the character sound at least moderately younger. Because if I remember correctly, Hawk is either 17 or 18 in the show. So he's a lot younger than how old Sabat is. And so that's going to be the tricky part here, trying to see if he's going to play it younger or if he's just going to play it rather gruff and rather manly. And then lastly is Yona, of course. Yona is the last one who was announced, obviously. This is one where I had 3 possibilities. One of the only ones where I had more than one prediction. The 3 that I had picked were Caitlin Glass, Bryn April, and Jeremy Lee. Those 3 are the ones that I had picked, and I felt like each of them could bring something different to Yona's character. However, with Jeremy at the very least, it wasn't going to happen. I know that much because she's in LA now, and she's spending more time there, so the likelihood of her being a part of that was very slim to none. So Jeremy was already out. So I left Caitlin and Bryn. And Bryn, I hadn't seen her really much at all this broadcast dub season, so I don't know if she's been busy with something else, or if she's just, I don't know what's going on. So that left Caitlin, and Caitlin, she's already taken part in several others, and I believe she's also directing, either directing or scriptwriter for the Absolute Duo broadcast dub. I kind of felt that Caitlin I think might have been the best option to go with Yona, at least out of my 3 predictions, but completely wrong. Again, it's actually Monica Rial as Yona, which is the second one out of this group I'm kind of iffy about. This is the second time I've run into a Monica role for the broadcast dubs where I'm like, what? It's a little confusing to see this, and I don't exactly know how to feel about it. It's gonna be like Ginkgo, another adjustment period time, but I think what the big thing that's I'm figuring out is that Monica's actually really busy this season with broadcast dubs, because she's, what does she have? She is a part of Rolling Girls. She's in Rolling Girls. She may be doing the script for that as well. She's one of the script writers for Tokyo Ghoul. alongside Greeley. She's also in Yurikuma, she's in Yona, she's in Assassination Classroom. She's doing a lot this season, and I don't know if that's going to affect the performance of at least the broadcast dub. It'll probably be better by the time we get the final product later on, maybe later this year maybe, or the next year. But this is going to be rather interesting to see happen. And before I get to my impressions of episode 14, the first broadcast dub episode, I actually want to talk about a couple other characters that were not announced. One I thought was going to, the other one, obviously we don't have anything for yet, because technically as of now, he's not going to make his appearance until the last episode of the 24th. So, which is annoying to me. It also makes me think, yeah, you need a second season, buddy, in order to make this work. Which I'm hoping there's going to be a second season. Please let there be one. They'll make me very happy. So, the two that I want to talk about briefly are J-Ha and Zeno, the green and the yellow dragons. Because J-Ha we're going to run into in the next couple of episodes in the broadcast dub anyway. And Zeno, again, he's at the last episode of the series so far. And I initially made some predictions for both of them, but then after the casting I had to rethink them because my initial predictions were both cast somewhere else. My initial predictions, J-Ha I was originally looking at Eric Vale to play, and Zeno I initially looked at Clifford Chapin. And since both of them are Shinha and Yoon, obviously I have to rethink this. I actually have some new predictions. For J-Ha, this one is a tricky one to figure out, because he is the lover boy kind of character, who's into beauty and all this romantic kind of stuff, but he's also rather deeper in tone. Not exactly manly, but you can kind of see where I'm getting at here. So I only have one new prediction for J-Ha, and that's Robert McCollum. I feel like he can pull this one off rather well. I mean, Jalal from Fairy Tail is similar to J-Ha to an extent, except some of J-Ha's mannerisms are completely different, but I feel like Jalal's voice is similar to what I would think J-Ha could be. As for Zeno, I have 3 predictions. Obviously, we don't know what Zeno sounds like at this point, at least at the time of recording this. But originally, like I said, I wanted Chapin. But my first prediction for Zeno is Josh Greeley, since my prediction of Suwon was completely wrong. And then I also have Todd Habercorn and Aaron Dismuke hiding in there. I feel like the 3 of them could pull, but just by the look of the character, and by what the few mannerisms and slight visuals of personality are like, I feel like one of these 3 could fit that role and do it rather well. But I won't know until I actually hear him in the last episode for the first time. So yeah, those are my new predictions for these 2 roles, because I'm annoyed that J-Ha wasn't announced, and very much annoyed that Zeno didn't even come until the end of the series. Oh my god, Yona the Dawn needs a second season so badly. Just so bad. Really, really bad. As for first impressions of the Yona broadcast dub so far, first and foremost, I was instantly sold on Vale, Chapin, and Sinclair as Shinha, Yoon, and Gija. Vale especially, because those first 2 minutes of that episode is a monologue for Shinha. And I was sold so instantly from Vale, because it's not 100% Yuki-sama, but it's still rather quiet and along that direction. And very, very timid, because Yuki-sama is not that timid compared to Shinha. So with Vale as Shinha, I was instantly sold within that 2 minutes. Chapin as Yoon, instantly sold after a few lines. Especially the lines where he's like calling himself a boy genius and the beautiful Bishoni, like, I don't want to die, that whole thing. I can't remember the line exactly. Those are the ones where I was fully convinced and I was sold on so far. Again, it's going to be interesting to see how the cross-dressing bit comes into play and what he's going to plan to do with that. And as for Gija and Sinclair, I'm okay with this. I'm very, very happy and excited to see this happen. And I can't wait to see where this goes. The next note I had pertains to Monica and Christopher's performances of Yona and Hawk. Like I said before, I'm gonna need more adjusting time for those 2. Though I do think that they're both going in a good direction. It's probably just because it's 2 voice actors I did not expect to take on these roles. Even though with Sabbath's case with Hawk, it's more really predictable. I was kind of hoping it wasn't gonna go that route. I think it's going to take more adjustment time to really have it come full fruition and see what happens from there. But I think it's going good for these 2 so far. And I think the relationship between these two, guys, that is one of the big things in this show, is the relationship between Yona and Hawk. Even though it's slightly, technically, it's a love triangle. I think the relationship between these two, because there is one moment that we have between the two, it's going in a good direction. And the comedic moments are doing rather well. It's great. I'm excited about it, but it's gonna take a little bit of time to adjust and adjust between the Japanese and then hearing the English from these two. So for me, Monica and Christopher, unfortunately, are the weaker ones of this initial episode. However, Vale and Chapin are definitely the standouts for me so far. I feel like those two are doing really well with it, with Shinha and Yoon. Like I said before, Vale is definitely a lot more softer than usual, which is similar to Yuki's Selma and Fruits Basket, but not as much, because at least Yuki is not timid as a mouse. Wow, I just realized that was a weird bit of irony and joke. Wow. Never mind. So I feel like Vale's doing perfectly fine here. Sinclair kind of reminds me a little bit of Tatsumi from Shiki. At least the vocal range and the tone we have going on. Except Gija is definitely a lot more sillier than Tatsumi, because Tatsumi will just be a really rather silly idiot for the sake of hiding his true character. Gija, not so much. Gija is naturally silly at some points, and I think Sinclair's playing with that rather well. The only other thing I have written down is because we have not heard Solasad yet. We won't hear Solasad, I think, for another episode or two. Because there's a two-part-ish episode, I think, directly after the Shinha episodes, with Suwon as the major feature. So I can't judge his performance quite yet, obviously, because I haven't heard him at all. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. But overall, I definitely think Yona is going in a good direction. Again, some of them are going to need some adjustment period time for me. Though I am really glad that it's particularly mostly veterans coming in here, and I think Chapin is really the only newbie, and Solasad, I don't want to call him that much of a newbie anymore, because he's been around for years at this point. But it's mostly veterans coming into play here, and Chapin. So I think this is going to be pretty solid, and I'm very excited to see where this goes. I may continue watching the broadcast dub again, just to keep hearing that, and just to see what's going to come out of it, even though I'm going to be finishing Yona very, very soon anyway. So the last show I'm going to talk about today is Maria the Virgin Witch. This one is definitely an interesting one. It's also fairly small in terms of announcement, but with this announcement came some interesting results. First, we have ADR director and scriptwriter. There's no assistant hanging out on this one. I did not expect either of these people to come into this. The ADR director is Sunny Strait, and the scriptwriter is Patrick Seitz. Oh my lord, I'm excited about this. Because Sunny, he has some directing credits under his belt, mostly in the way of Lupin stuff that he did for Funimation. Those are the things, that's the biggest thing that directing-wise that he's done. But he's also done some directing for Dragon Ball Z, as well as assisting ADR director for the original Fullmetal Alchemist, as well as Ouran High School Host Club. So this was definitely different, because I think it's one of the first shows that he's directed that he's the full-fledged director for that isn't Lupin. So it'll be fun and interesting to see that come up. And as for Patrick Seitz as scriptwriter, I feel like this is something that's really up his alley, because looking at his scriptwriting stuff, he has quite a few. But some of the prominent ones would be Blaze Blue After Memory is a big one, because that was recently announced, and he's taking on both scriptwriting and directing for this one. He took on Dead Man Wonderland. He took on Ghost in the Shell Arise. He did the script for Hitalia, The Beautiful World, as well as Monster's the big one here, which makes me put my faith in Patrick Seitz and his scriptwriting work, because I love Monster Pieces. So I feel like this is going to be perfect. The script is going to be perfectly fine. Because he also did Summer Wars, and he also did Wolf's Children scripts. He also did some scripts, he did some episodes for Space Dandy. So he's done some pretty big name projects, but I think Monster is the big one that indicates to me that he's going to be perfectly fine with the script here. I have no issues here. I mean, I've yet to really see anything that has been directed by Sunny Strait, so this is going to be a lot of fun for me to see going into the dub for this one. Moving on to the actual casting. The first one that we have, because how they separated it, they have the main cast and then a few of other members of the cast. So they put it in two different sections in the announcement. So going backwards, I'm starting with Galfa, who is a mercenary that we follow all around quite a bit. He's one of, I kind of consider him a major character, considering some of the plot elements, but he's not, but others probably don't see him as that. Galfa, I had 3 predictions, and they are very, very different from each other. Galfa, I was thinking either Ian Sinclair, Mike McFarland, or Eric Vale. Though mostly I was pegging Sinclair because I felt it would be a pretty good fit. McFarland was my second choice, but I felt like his vocal quality would not match up well, and at the same time, he is rather busy with dealing with Tokyo Ghoul and all that stuff. And then Eric Vale, stereotypical, slightly asshole-ish character. Hey Eric, you want to voice that one? That's kind of the big reason why I put him here, but it was, I didn't feel like it was going to happen. So I was thinking Sinclair was going to get it. But instead, we have Chris Rager, who has voiced quite a few things, but mostly things that I don't really know about, and it's mostly minor roles that he's done. But probably the big thing he's done a lot of Dragon Ball Z as either Hercule, Mr. Satan, or Android 14. He's done quite a few things for Dragon Ball Z. But the big thing that I know him for is actually One Piece as Arlong. From what I can remember of how Arlong is portrayed, I feel like it's going to be an interesting fit for Galfa, or Garfa, or however frig they're planning to pronounce it. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to work, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this goes. The next one that was announced was Archangel Mikhail, whom, again, Archangel Mikhail, he's initially the person who sets this restriction on Maria, that if she loses her virginity, she loses her magical powers. I did not have a prediction for Mikhail, for Archangel Michael. I don't know how they're pronouncing shit for this, because it takes place in France, but the likelihood of him keeping that, I don't know. So the person who's voicing Michael, the Archangel, is actually Caitlin Glass, which is interesting because I didn't look up who's the seiyuu for Michael, but I feel like more than likely it's possible that it's a female voice actor, female seiyuu taking on the role. So it makes sense to have a female voice actress taking on the role again. And Caitlin, I think she's going to be fine with it. She will have to obviously deepen her tone of voice to make it fit, since Michael is supposedly more male, but can be slightly androgynous. So it'll be interesting to see that happen. Next is Bernard. Bernard is the head monk, if I remember correctly, in the local monastery nearby the village where Maria lives. I had 2 rather interesting predictions here. I put down J. Michael Tatum as one, and David Matronga as the other. Tatum, I felt like, because of what I can tell from Bernard's character, I felt like Tatum would be a good fit there. And then seeing more recent episodes, since I'm caught up on that now on the simulcast, and seeing some of the crap that Bernard does, holy crap, oh man. I kind of wanted to see what Tatum would do with that. And then I also thought David Matronga would be pretty good, because he's a bit more, because Matronga is mostly more soft-spoken, but can be that rather tough person. So seeing that come in for Bernard would have been really interesting and fun to see. However, I'm interested to see what's going to happen here, because it's Sunny Strait taking on Bernard. I can imagine slightly like more Lupin in vocal quality, like the Lupin that I saw from Lupin the Third, Woman Called Fuchika Meeting. I feel like that could work. That might be the direction he heads towards. It's definitely not an Usopp from One Piece. It's definitely not a Koro Sensei from Assassination Classroom. I feel like that's more of what we're looking at here. The last character from the, at least the secondary casting that they had split them into, was Anne. She's the little girl who really likes Maria. and visits her, and she thinks that Maria is a really, really nice person and for helping her grandmother Martha. I had one and only prediction, and ironically enough, this is one of two that I actually kind of got right. So the person who's playing Anne, the reason why I picked her was based on another announcement from another broadcast that we have talked about previously. And that is for Hinami from Tokyo Ghoul. Obviously that means it's Laura Woodhull coming in as Anne. Based on what I had seen from Hinami and what Laura Woodhull came up with, because I knew obviously these announcements were coming up, I felt that when I got to Anne, Woodhull would probably be the only one who's capable of pulling this one off. I think it's going to work really fine here. Obviously Anne is much younger than Hinami, so it's around more of an age like, I think she played Yuki from Molchon, the younger version of her. So I think that's the direction it's going to happen here with Anne. Though I was not too fond of it, I think it's with Sonny Strait, based on what I know so far of him and his work, which is barely nothing directorial-wise, I think he's going to push her in a good direction with it, so I'm perfectly fine there with it. So now we've reached the main cast, quote-unquote, that they put together. And first on that list is Joseph. Joseph is this young vessel for a local earl, I believe. And he actually has feelings for Maria. And I had two predictions of how this could go. For Joseph, I had initially picked Josh Greeley and Clifford Chapman to come in this one. Initially, I was just like, Josh Greeley, why not? He's pretty cool. But Chapman has been proving me wrong a bit, so that's why I threw him in as a second choice. And I felt like either one of them could do really well with Joseph. However, I'm not too disappointed with this choice based on what I've seen with him recently, because Austin Tyndall's coming in as Joseph. And the reason, and you know how, and I think before in the last Dub Talk episode, or even the previous one where I talked about Defrag, the only thing I had known him for at the time was Guilty Crown and Shoot, and I was not fond of that one. Since then, he's been proving me wrong, like so much. The trailer I saw for Defrag a few weeks ago, I think Kenji Kazuma, that's going in a good direction. His role of Kaneki in Tokyo Ghoul, that is going in a good direction, though I'm worried about going back to season 1. That's my only fear on that one. His role is Karma in Assassination Classroom. I think that's wonderful right now. He's actually a minor character in Kami-sama Kiss. He plays one of the Shikigamis belonging to Kirihito, who's played by Brendan Potter. And I think that's going fine. So he's slowly proving me wrong here, based on my initial, like, oh my god, I don't really like Shu, I don't really like Guilty Crown. He's proving me wrong here. He's proven me wrong so far. I think it's going to happen here again with Joseph in this show. And I think we're going to be having something different. Definitely something different than what I had seen him do so far this season. And I am very excited to see where this is going to go. The next one to come in, Ezekiel, blah, blah. This thing, names, I'm sorry, it's weird. She is the, basically, Archangel Michael's eyes and ears in order to keep track of Maria. And she's also referred to as Miss Dovey at times. I have 3 predictions for this one. I was thinking it was either going to be Jade Saxton, Alexis Tipton, or Bryn April. All 3 of them are different. All 3 of them would have done rather well with this, I feel. However, I don't mind who ended up here, and it's Leah Clark. Leah Clark is taking on this role, and I believe this is the first time we're actually talking about her here, because she has done Baka and Test, Saki Morami from Eden of the East. So she's a lead female character from Eden of the East. Murmur from Future Diary. I forgot which one that is, but there's that. There is, she was originally Kobe in the Funimation dub of One Piece before we got TH Kobe and Mega Soul Slot taking over, as well as Miss Doublefinger during the Alabasta arc. She's also Chiaya for Rolling Girls, so she's not. This isn't the only dub she's doing this season. She's also part of the class E-class for Assassination Classroom. We just previously talked about that. So she's done a lot. She's done quite a few things. And considering how young Ezekiel is, I think this was gonna fit really well. And I'm very excited to see what comes out of it. Next is, oh good lord, this name, man. Priapus? Fuck if I forget I know. Priapus, that's the name I'm going with. Priapus, who, is one of, Maria's familiars. He is a incubus. And who's an owl. And I had two possible predictions here. I picked either Josh Greeley or Joe McDonald here, because I felt that, again, this is one where I felt that either one of them could have worked, though Greeley was my initial pick here, compared to Joseph, because I felt that Greeley could have a lot more fun with this character, considering some of the things that Priapus goes through in the show. We have neither of those coming in here. Instead, we have Jerry Jewell. I don't know how this is gonna go. I'm very curious about it. It's very interesting to see this happen, and I'm very curious to know how Jerry is going to pull this one off. I feel like it's possible. It's just gonna be very, very different than what I've seen. Cause with this character, I definitely felt like more of a Greeley was gonna happen. So I'm very interested to see how this one's gonna go. We have two more. We have Artemis. Artemis is the first one. She is the succubus. Succubus and another familiar of Maria's who's been with her the longest. I only had one prediction initially, and it was Jamie Marchi. I felt like it was going to be a classic Jamie Marchi role. I felt like it was going to be perfectly fine with Artemis's mannerisms and all that stuff. Obviously, I'm wrong. Instead, we have coming in is Whitney Rogers. Whitney Rogers is still fairly new. I think she's probably one of the more fresh voice actors out of this cast announcement. Some of the things she's done so far, she is also in another one or two other dubs this season, because she's doing Absolute Duo for the broadcast dubs. She was recently announced as Chitose for Defrag, which I don't think sounds too badly based on the trailer I saw, but there wasn't much for her to say in that trailer, so I can't tell too much. She also did Hanagi, and then the rest are either shows that I have never heard of before, or things I have yet to see, or minor roles. She doesn't have a lot under her belt, and so I'm very interested here again as well to see what's gonna happen. I can only say so much because I don't know much about Whitney Rogers and her work, because I haven't seen anything, I don't think, with her in it yet. This is gonna be the first thing I ever see her do. So I am very curious to see what's going to happen here. So last we have Maria, our title character, obviously. And for here, I had two predictions, one of which was actually correct, so we'll get to that in a second. One of my predictions was Kate Oxley. Kate Oxley, I don't know extremely much about. The reason why I picked her for Maria was her performance of Akane for Psychopaths. Because I felt that her performance there would be something similar and can translate rather well into Maria. So that was my first instinct when looking at it, because I wanted to think outside of the box a little bit with it. And then Alexis Tipton came in. She's my other prediction. For Maria, I'm excited to see where this is gonna go, because Maria is definitely very different than all the other Tipton roles that I've seen her do so far. I mean, just looking at Maria and Kureha from Yurikuma, these are two completely different characters here. They both have their tough moments, but like vocal-wise, two completely different things. So to see Tipton playing Maria is going to be very interesting for me. I'm actually rather excited to see how this goes. At the time I recorded this anyway, I haven't seen the broadcast dub of Maria the Virgin Witch. But I think someone else has. I think Future Me has got it covered. So yeah, hey Future Me, you got this covered now. Totally, I can take on these impressions of Maria, but I'm over here. Whatever. Okay, first impressions on the broadcast of Maria. First and foremost, there are some people who were cast that we did not get to hear today in the first episode. Those being Leah Clark, Sunny Strait being the two big ones. Jerry Jewell and Caitlin Glass, kind of. With Caitlin, she only had one word at the end of the episode, and I was just saying Maria or Maria's name. And then Jerry Jewell, he's not in the episode, however he's in the episode preview at the end, and he just had one sentence, so it's hard to judge on both of them. I was instantly also sold on Laura Woodhull's Anne. Just within the few minutes she was there, because she's in the beginning part of the episode with her and her mother going to visit Maria. I think that it was great. It was definitely a perfect fit, and I'm very excited to see more of her. Slight flip side of it though, with Tyndall's performance as Joseph, it did take a little bit for me to get through it. In the beginning when he shows up and he's talking with Maria, it was a little bit awkward at points, some of the vocal work. Probably because of the awkward relationship that kind of starts out between Joseph and Maria, which makes some sense. But by the end of the episode, I was a lot more relaxed about it, more confident about it. Tyndall's work as Joseph. It just took a minute because that beginning scene between Joseph and Maria was a little bit weird for me. Accents and dialects, because with this, there's no French accent for any of the characters who are from France. So Maria doesn't have one, Joseph obviously doesn't have one, many of the characters don't have one, but any of the characters who are from England do have an English accent. So many of the soldiers you'll hear this throughout the episode have an English accent. Viv is a prominent one, we get one for, because she does appear in this episode. But any of the characters from France, we don't have an accent. However, what we do get is some words and phrases in French that are spoken in French. So whether it's greetings, short little things like n'est-ce pas, different little French phrases and things like that, those are in there, and I'm very happy to see that. I don't recall that happening with the Japanese, so I'm really excited to see this coming through for the English version of it, because I think it brings it a little bit more to the show. And speaking of Viv, it's very difficult to tell who's playing her, and because I am recording this like several hours afterwards, I don't know if anything has been updated yet as to who is playing Viv, but I did have a prediction for her, and it may or may not be who it is. Initially, before the cast announcement, my prediction was going to be Brina Palencia. And by the sounds of it, it kind of sounds like it could be Brina. Some of that accent work that's in there kind of sounds like CL from Black Butler to an extent, except in a more female version. But I won't know until I hear more about it. Rager's Galfa. It wasn't bad, but it kind of sounds a lot older than I thought it was going to be. It doesn't help that it doesn't help that he is older than what Galfa would be. Galfa, I would think, would be between late 20s to mid 30s. I think that's the age gap I would think it would be around. And Rager is much older. So again, this is a weird one, similar to Sabbath and Hawk, where it seems a little bit too old for him. But it's probably going to take a little bit of time to adjust to it. I mean, I think it's definitely going in a good direction. It's just going to take a little bit of time for me to work with it more and to see how everything goes. Alexis Tipton's Maria is definitely off to a great start, though I did kind of write down that I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more maturity, because Maria kind of seems a bit more mature. However, some of the slightly oblivious, more virgin type moments that were in the episode, Alexis managed to make them work really well. So I kind of have mixed feelings on it, but I feel like in the end it's going to work really well for Alexis. It just seems like Maria is a slightly older than what a Tipton sounds like right now. However, I think it's definitely doing very well. And my last major note that I had was that the scripting and direction for the first episode was rather solid. I mean, I mentioned with some of the scripting choices, the English accents for direction, and use of French words and phrases for scripting wise, and some of the languages and the dialect. It's definitely more time period. It definitely helps it a lot more, and I'm very happy to see this, and it gives me a lot of confidence. I knew that the script was going to be fine. Patrick Stuyvesant knows what he's doing. Since this is the first thing I've seen Sunny Strait direct, this first episode gives me more confidence that it's going to be going very well. It's definitely going in a great direction. Overall, I would have to say that the Maria dub, out of the three from today's dub talk video is my favorite, with Yona probably as my second favorite, because of the scripting, because of the directing, because of the use of those dialects and making it fit within that time period. And the majority of the cast, for me and Maria, was definitely the best that I had seen out of the three. There is obviously room to grow from here on out. This isn't my favorite dub of the entire season. From broadcast dubs, I mean, Death Parade is kicking a lot of butt right now for me, regardless. But it's definitely doing very well. It's going in a very solid and wonderful direction, and I'm very excited to see where it's going to go from here. Because I may keep up with this one even after I finish watching the show next week, depending on when this comes out. And yeah, that's my little impressions on the dub. So I guess the older me can finish up the video from here, I guess. Thanks, future me. I love you. Bye. You know I'm over here, right? So those are my thoughts on the dub announcements, and as well as my impressions for Yurikuma, Yona, and Maria. If you have your own thoughts about the show, the dub announcements, as well as your impressions on them, please let me know in the comments below. Before I go, I do want to announce one other thing. As some people may know, I currently am not doing my impression series, mostly for the sake of time and getting stuff done. No, I'm not bringing it back quite yet. Hold on. I kind of just actually want to announce that I'm still doing seasonal stuff, but for another blog, Infinite Rainy Day. And I actually have already got my assignments for the spring season, in case people are kind of interested in what I'm actually covering for the next season. Because the winter season, my main ones that I've been covering were Yatterman Night, Rolling Girls, and World Break, but I already dropped World Break, so I'm down to 2. But with this spring season, I'm actually going to be given 5 shows. And they may change depending on availability of all the other ones between other staff members. So I just really quickly wanted to mention which ones that, for now, I've been assigned, in case you're interested in seeing what's going to come up with them. So I have, for mine, Rainy Coco, Is It Wrong to Try and Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? Kyokai no Rin, and 2 that I did not expect that I was going to be getting. But for some reason, random.org was very nice to me this season. I am going to be, as far as I know right now, I am going to be covering Digimon Adventure Tri and the new Lupin the Third series. So those are the 5 that I've been given as of now. There may be shifting around once the season starts, but those are basically the ones I am looking at. If you are interested in our winter season coverage, you can check that out right now. I'll leave a link in the description, because as of now, we should be doing a final winter report fairly soon, in the next few weeks, as soon as all of these shows finish. And then probably a week or 2 after that will be the start of the spring season, once we get those ones started. Yeah, if you're interested in taking a look at the seasonal reports from Rainy Day right now, there will be a link in the description to check them out. I think that's about everything. I just really wanted to announce it because I was so excited that I got Digimon and Lupin. I don't know how that happened. I thought it was going to end up, they were going to go somewhere else. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I just hope I get to keep them. We'll see how everything goes. That should be everything for today. So until next time, otaku all my friends.